And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome in to your LSU Football Fix. I'm Preston Guy. Joined with me tonight is Zack Nagy, publisher at sportsillustrated.com, LSU Country. Zack, what's going on, man? I heard you got a good look at LSU today.
Yeah, not too much. Obviously, look, we're kicking in full swing now. It's USC week, and got a chance to talk to BK today. It was good. Really just went over the X's and O's of this week and a little injury report, nothing too crazy, but all good things. He's really upbeat, confident in the team, confident in the defense, and it was really nice to see.
And also joined with me, as always, for a very special show tonight. And look, I was about to tell him to unmute himself. He's a professional. He already knew. Then Lathan Jr., known throughout the country for doing a variety of special entertainment reporting and whatnot. He's all over the place, but more simply, probably the biggest LSU fan known to man. Van, what's going on, man?
Quick story. How you guys doing? Zack, Preston, what's up? I'm here at a hotel in Beverly Hills, coming to you guys live from Beverly Hills because something happened over at the homestead, and me and the lady had to come here for the hotel. I got my LSU jumper on. I'm walking out of the hotel. A guy stops me. He goes, "Oh, LSU. Are you from Louisiana?" I'm like, yeah. He goes, "I play quarterback at LSU." I'm like, "What?"
And you didn't know who he was already. That's the weird part.
I didn't recognize him. And I'm like, "You play quarterback at LSU. What's your name?" He said, "Josh Booty."
How about that? Okay, Josh Booty's in all fairness, Josh Booty does look like just like your average Joe Blow.
Average Joe,
yeah. He looks like Zack Nagy in 20 years from now. That's what he looks like.
Funny.
Did not recognize him. We sat there and we talked for a little while. We talked about our high schools. We talked about his nephew a little bit, but great guy, Josh Booty.
That's awesome, man. And he does a lot of podcasts here and there and whatnot. So guys, a quick little rundown of what we're doing tonight. We're going to do the Nagy notes first up. We're going to talk about BK's presser today. Okay. Going to be a little shorter, but also Nagy got a real good tour of the LSU facilities and whatnot. And we're going to let him kind of walk you through that. I've got a couple notes, particularly like on injury stuff and stuff like that. But then we're going to put this bad boy on the screen. Our ugly faces are going to be minimized while we discuss LSU, each game on LSU schedule, and we're going to make the official predictions for this year. So all that's ready. We're going to engage with you as we're going throughout the show. I do want you to put out your predictions, like predict with us alongside us. As Stephen Miller says here, make sure to hit that like, guys. Remember, beat Mike, hit like. We got to get more likes than him. We're 0 for 3 this year. We got to play some catch up here, man. I mean, I know his show's a juggernaut and they're doing their thing. We got to get more likes than them at least once this year. So hit like, beat Mike. Let's get that rocking and rolling. With that being said, Zack, walk us through your notes today, man.
Yeah, look, I mean, BK took the podium around 12:02 and really just dove right into USC week. And for me, kind of one of the major takeaways was just him talking about containing Zachariah Branch. I think everybody knows that he's electric with the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker, and specifically on punt returns and kick returns. And for Kelly, he was kind of just talking about, obviously, getting the ball out of his hands, kicking it away. And that's kind of the obvious strategy here. This is a guy who's electric and can do anything he wants with the ball. And another thing for me was just talking about how confident he is in the defense. It's a new look group under Blake Baker. And for me, my major takeaway during fall camp was just the passion and intensity that they played with on a routine basis. And it showed during 11-on-11 work. They were giving Garrett Nussmeier problems. And it was positive to see, especially after last year in fall camp, really where Jaden Daniels was carving him up like a turkey. So it was nice to see a little bit of competitiveness from that side of the group. And now, we're starting to see BK really confident in them going into the season and specifically in the trenches. I think a lot of people are going to be talking about Jacoby and Guillory, Gio Paez, the interior defensive line. But BK was talking a lot about how he's confident in his defensive ends to kind of take the pressure off of them a little bit. And as long as they do their job, it'll be a solid group. So he's confident in his defensive ends. He's confident in the linebackers, of course, headlined by Harold Perkins. So, look, it's going to be a challenge. I know some people might overlook USC a little bit because they're going through a little bit of the same challenges as us. But it's going to be a hard-fought game. I'm excited to see how it goes. And surely Brian Kelly is very, very confident going into year 3, and expectations are high as ever.
What did you think about the facility, like the players' lounge and all that good stuff? Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was just it was state of the art. You got the Tyron Matthew player lounge, and they got a ping pong table, air hockey. They got video game setups, 5, 6, 7 TVs around that entire room, overlooking the practice field outside. That player lounge is fantastic. It's a really good spot for the guys to just kick back and chop it up. And they also have a barbershop right there, a podcast studio for the guys to kind of make their brand bigger and start their own podcast with several of the guys. So it's a really good opportunity. And we know LSU's so big in the NIL game that they want their guys to make bigger platforms on social media and continue to get their names out there outside of football. And I think obviously the barbershop is a place for them to chop it up, and then they can take it right across the hall and go to that podcast studio and kind of make things a little bit more professional. So player lounge is fantastic. BK and the staff did a fantastic job there. And then we made our way downstairs to the recovery center. And look, man, that is one of the most unbelievable facilities that I've seen. I think it rivals a lot of NFL kind of facilities that they have, from the hydrotherapy to the light therapy to just talking to Frakes about the nutrition program. It was a sight to see. It was a really neat opportunity, and Brian Kelly's kind of making that player experience even better for them. So it's a nice investment. Obviously, Brian Kelly put money towards that a year or two ago, and his investment's going to pay dividends, because I think you're going to see a lot of players really, really key in on the recovery, the player lounge, everything else that they have outside of football.
Yeah, man, it's interesting to me. So I remember thinking a couple years back that maybe now that players can be paid with NIL funds, and of course, I'm not naive to think that money is just limitless and people are just going to double their donations to NIL collectives and the athletic departments. I was really wondering if all these just over the top athletic facilities are going to be a thing of the past now, because the game is going to be about getting that money directly to the players. In fact, I asked BK Saturday, which was more important for him, an NIL donation or a TAF donation. Of course, he kind of skirted the question and said, well, hopefully we can get those to be one and the same in the future. But I think that this is kind of a resounding answer that no, they're still going to be rolling with some fancy athletic facilities, no doubt. Let me ask you a question on, you mentioned Zachariah Branch. You watched all fall camp as I did. Do you think LSU actually has an answer for Zachariah Branch?
I don't really know that many programs that have the speed to keep up with him in the secondary. I mean, This is a guy who's he's a vertical threat. If he gets the ball in open space, he's a threat there too. But kind of to detail your question, look, I'm not sure we have the personnel to stop him. I think it's just about slowing him down, and I think we have the guys that can potentially do that.
Right, no doubt. All right, let's get to some comments here. I got a little bit of salt on this first comment from DA here. Nice to have you and Zach back on a Monday. Great content with very little interruption from advertising, LOL. Like a lot of other shows, I'm just salty ads have gotten out of hand. Well, I guess it's not our show. I actually did have someone complain about too many ads on the show. I'm like, man, we do 2 ad breaks in an hour. I don't know how I can really fix that. We got a USC fan in here, 41-28. Fight on. Hey, look, man, give us some views out there in LA. By the way, hey, speaking of enemies, you're in enemy territory, Van. How has this offseason been treating you? Not only USC, but also UCLA is where you live.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so much trepidation amongst the SC fans that they don't really have it in them to be that boisterous about everything. They're scared. They don't know what kind of team they got. They don't know the future of their head coach. So it's been a little quiet. I think there's some tension here. I think there's a little bit of that same tension with a lot of my LSU fans that I talk to, but there's still a lot of reasons to be up about the season. I think some of what we're going through just has to do with the last couple of years and how the opening game of the schedule is gone. But man, they're afraid out here. They're not really bumping their gums too much. They're scared.
Yeah. I think I did a USC show the other day on their radio, and the guys, they feel good about what they've done with the team. They're more so, they're like, we're exactly the same as LSU. And I did have to say, pump the brakes. I do see a lot of the parallels. Heisman winner, Lincoln Riley versus Brian Kelly got hired at the same time. But I was like, also, I mean, USC is coming off a 7-5 season versus LSU, having a much more respectable 9-3 season, right? So, I mean, 2 more wins, much less of a collapse. I mean, not to say that LSU wasn't disappointed in their season last year. And also another note here, you can't exactly just say, well, it's an SEC 9 win versus a Pac-12 9, because the Pac-12 was sick last year. Boy, the Pac-12 went out in a blaze of glory. So, just some interesting notes there. I feel like the UCLA guys are just like, they're like, yeah, this is going to be a rough year. We're going to take one on the chin, and we're going to get over it. Another interesting presser note that I have, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this beforehand. Injury report. Chris Hilton listed as questionable, which God bless him, man. Chris Hilton's been so good when he's been able to play, but that hasn't been often. We were just talking about how he was pretty solidly your number 2 receiver, right? Me and Zach were talking about that last week. And now I guess he's not. So now it's going to be CJ Daniels sliding into that spot. And they say Kyle Parker for the number 3 receiver. Do you believe BK when he says, you think Kyle Parker is actually going to be your 3rd receiver over guys like Xavion Thomas, Aaron Anderson, Shelton Sampson even?
It's more positional. Kyle Parker's Chris Hilton's backup. So it's more of a positional thing. But look, he closed out fall camp strong. This is a guy who has crisp route running. He's a speedster. When he's in open space, he's a talent. This is a guy who can fill in the role if need be, but it's more of a positional thing. He's Chris Hilton's backup, and it makes sense schematically for them to throw him in the mix with the first team.
I guess so. I just feel like at a certain point, wide receivers got to play wide receiver. You know what I mean? And if one guy isn't the best player available, I mean, work the guy in who is. Miles Frazier listed as probable. I would not stress about that. I mean, if he's out, Tyree Adams will slide in and he'll be fine. At this point, I'm really thinking DJ Chester is the one that would hurt the most to lose. I mean, Will Campbell for obvious reasons, but I just think that DJ Chester shakes up things on the offensive line in a way that the other guys don't. You know, you can't just slide
center for sure.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. Cause you're really putting in Dellinger at center if it doesn't work. And that's just a big reshuffling. It's not that I think DJ Chester's probably I don't know if I want to say worst offensive lineman or just like least experienced, but he's not like your best guy. That's not what I'm getting. I'm just getting at, you don't really have things get shaken up a lot more if you had to replace him. But I have to say, and we do kind of have to consider Trey Holly as a part of this MIA list, so to speak, because he won't be in this game. But outside of that, man, I mean, this has to be one of the cleanest fall camps we've seen in a while. I mean, there is like nobody hurt. If this is true, if you've got one Q and one P, that's very quiet. So
yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think Miles Frazier is going to suit up. I feel confident in him getting on the field. Chris Hilton, we'll see what happens if he practices later this week, but I feel good.
That gives
it
me.
Seemed to me that. It seemed to me that when I listened to BK that they're hopeful that Hilton can go. It seems as if they're hopeful that he'll be able to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I'll say this: a bone bruise, that sucker hurts. It's not like a serious career-altering injury, but I do think it's one of those things where like you'll be 95% speed. You know what I'm saying? Like it hurts.
His 95% speed is still unbelievable. I mean, this dude's ridiculous. And he's been dealing with his bone bruise for about a week now. So by the time the USC game comes, it'll have been 2 weeks. So I'm hoping that's enough time, kind of like that adequate time period for him to get on the field. But kind of like what Van said, I lean towards him getting on the field for Sunday. If not, look, you have an embarrassment of riches at the receiver position.
You do. Lots of depth. That wear and tear system is taking some play on him. He's got -7 to speed here, but he's still at least 82 speed here. So we're rocking real good numbers here. Van, have you played the new video game at all? I don't know if you're a gamer at all.
Have I played? I took a 3-star from Baton Rouge.
Okay.
We had to go to North Texas first. Okay. We had to spend that 1 year in North Texas, didn't play the first year. Second year we played. Now we've won the national championship. And the second year, our senior year at LSU, we are deep, deep, deep in contention for the Heisman Trophy.
There you go.
That's all I do. That like
road to glory, man.
When my girl walks in here, she hears us talking about the video game, she's going to start snarling.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife, once she hears that drum line, the eyes just roll throughout the back of her head. She's sick and tired of hearing drums. I have to have a headset on just so she doesn't notice. Anyways, let's talk about some real football. Let's set the table here, guys. The last 3 coaches at LSU have all won a national championship in their 3rd season. And let's count them up. BK, what season is this for you? 1, 2, 3. In 2003, Nick Saban and the LSU Tigers came into the season ranked number 14. They went on to go 13-1 and win the national title. In 2007, Les Miles and the LSU Tigers, despite losing 4 first-round draft picks and the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, Jamarcus Russell, LSU came into the season ranked number 2. And, of course, improved on that by 1 spot despite losing 2 regular season games. National championship. In 2019, a transfer quarterback just came off a season where he barely completed 50% of his passes and came into the season. He had a good bowl game, but again, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, not exactly super impressive, but they thought maybe he could improve a little bit, get into that 25 touchdown area, and the team could be really good, carried by a great defense. Number 6 ranked nationally. That team led by Edward Orgeron went on to be the greatest team in college football history. Joe Burrow, of course, didn't throw 16. He threw 60 touchdowns that year. Unbelievable. The only 65 total touchdown season in Power 5 history. The only 6,000-yard season in FBS history. Greatest, and if you have anything to say about it, I don't care. In 2024, Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers come into the preseason ranked 13th nationally, and we'll have to see what that result is. Let's see, before we dive too far into the schedule, let's see what the fans had to say. I've been putting out a couple polls here to talk about the fans. All right, how many games does LSU win this regular season? I put out a poll, 400 people voted in it. 80% of fans think LSU will win 10 or more games, with the most popular answer being 10 wins, okay? Of course, does LSU make the playoffs? 84% on 626 people think LSU will make the playoffs. Of course, this is my followers, which is going to be overwhelmingly LSU. And let's see if I can find this last little tweet here. Breaking down LSU's playoff hunt. Let's see here. Okay. How many games does LSU need to win to make the playoffs? A lot of people were talking about, well, 9 wins might be enough with 3 losses. 10 wins might be enough. Well, the best thing I looked at was, let's go back and look at what LSU's results have been since 2000. Okay. They've had 10 3-loss seasons since 2000, and 2 of those teams have made the playoffs. They've had 5 2-loss seasons, and all 5 have been to the playoffs, right? I do think that there's an argument that 2013 team, if it were a playoff on the line with Mettenberger and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and Jeremy Hill, I think maybe a TV ratings bump might have pushed him in. But then again, Mettenberger also tore his ACL against Arkansas. So we don't really know what the true implications of having a playoff bid or not on the line is with these teams, but I can tell you that those teams would about, by the way, 0-1, they wouldn't have won the SEC championship because a 3-loss team ain't making it to the SEC championship anymore. No chance. So they would have been out that year as well. So basically the magic number is 10. 9 gets you in if you have a robust resume outside of that. So that sets the table for us. Let's dive in, guys. Let's see what LSU does. Does LSU get to that magical 10-win season? Game 1, LSU goes to Las Vegas against the USC Trojans. 2003, we're about to be redeemed. I texted Matt Mock earlier today to ask him if he's still salty about this game. And he said, nah, we got the trophy. They never got one, so who cares? The way he looks at it, it was settled on the field already. Okay.
All right.
In the comments, give me your score prediction for LSU USC. Does LSU drop half a decade of consecutive openers? We'll start with Van.
37-27 Tigers.
37-27.
37-27 Tigers. The defense starts off a little shaky as they get into the game. They get lathered up. The offense, when you look at SC and some of the problems that they've had, you're looking at their defensive line. It's not going to be stout. You're looking at the linebacker core. They haven't played with very much intensity. They do have a new defensive staff in, as do we. I don't see them being able to stop and play with this offensive line. I think they'll be pushed around. I think that we'll be able to run the ball. I think we'll make plays down the field. We'll have no problem scoring. The defense will give up plays early. They'll get better as the game goes on. SC won't get quite to 30. It'll be 37-27. Late touchdown to pad the lead.
30, so 10-point win. Van says 4.5 point, double that. All right, Nagy, what you got, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, I pretty much double down with that. I say 34-24. And it's a game that's going to be won in the trenches. And I know that's a pretty cliche take. I know everybody likes to say every game's won and lost in the trenches, but I think this one's going to be a true testament to that. Just because I think LSU's offensive line is just that much better than them. Their defensive line it's a new look group in a way, and they're bringing a new coordinator, new defense for the most part. I really think LSU's offensive line is going to power them to a pretty big win here. I really think that the offense is going to be too much for USC. Ultimately get the 10-point win here, double the spread, like you said, and get it done. I know a lot of people are going to sit back and say that we haven't won an opener since 2019 and all that talk, but I think this is the one where you get over the hump, and it can ultimately propel you to a 10-win season if things go accordingly. But sticking with week one, I think LSU wins 34-24.
Okay. Week one, LSU is as healthy as I can remember for an opener. It's been a very quiet offseason outside of Trey Holly and Taviano. Looks like Taviano is getting his stuff ironed out. Trey Holly is a guy you'd love to have, but ultimately the running back position has been very impressive, if you ask me. I think LSU rolls. And I think LSU is highly, highly motivated. I think there's not a single individual game that means more to LSU perception-wise than this USC game. The second is Alabama, being that you want to set the tone of the post-Saban era, but you want to come into a season and get a dub and set the tone. You do not want to drop half a decade. I also think that they know how talented this USC offense is, and they really want to make a statement. I think this defensive line is going to be greatly improved, and they're just going to have to scheme around the defensive backs. I think that they're going to have to scheme around Zachariah Branch. He's going to get his. He's not the kind of guy you can just say, there's no guy on your roster who's going to be Patrick Peterson on, whomever, AJ Green, right? There's no guy like that. You're going to have to scheme around it, use some zone coverage, use some double man. And Miller Moss is going to get his, but I think LSU wins 1, 2, 3 scores. I'm taking LSU by 17 in this one. I think LSU rolls. I think Nussmeier and company are going to just they're going to hang a lot of points. I think LSU is going to give up some points, but I think LSU is going to put up a ton of points. Give me LSU by 3 scores. And frankly, take the over. Take the over. If they're laying you 61, one of these teams, let's put it like this. If either of these teams don't have their defense drastically fixed, one team might get the 61. So I'm just saying.
Right.
Just saying. Let's see. Do we have any interesting predictions here? Faye Schubert says, she's with me. She's with me. 42-21. All right. Nicholls State. Go ahead, Van.
Just, hope our brethren can limp back to Thibodeau. We're going to win. We're going to win big. This is a game where coming down off SC, we're going to want to get some of the young players some reps if we can. But it's another game that's going to be Nussmeier's going to be able to sling it all around. It's going to be a finding your rhythm kind of situation. I can't even think of what the score would be, but obviously we're beating Nicholls State at home in Baton Rouge. Love to our family, to our Cajun brothers and sisters, but it's going to be a tough game for you.
Yeah, no, I think I say like 56-14. I think this is going to be a game where, first of all, Nussmeier obviously gets it done early in the first half, but this is where you kind of solidify that backup quarterback spot. I know AJ Swan and Ricky Collins are still battling it out to a degree. They haven't determined who that second guy is on the two deep depth chart. I think this is where you kind of solidify that a little bit, get your young wide receivers in there, and then you can kind of make some tweaks in the secondary if you want to. You can kind of throw in PJ Woodland with the ones a little bit, J.K. Johnson with the ones. You can kind of solidify a couple different rotations that you might not have in week 1 against USC. Kind of throw some feelers out there and work from there. But look, it's going to be the home opener in Tiger Stadium. It's going to be rocking, and you're going to get to see the LED light show, the new screen. You're going to see everything. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I say LSU 56, Nicholls State 14.
All right. So first off, thoughts and prayers for my Louisiana brethren from Thibodaux. Love you. Love Manning Passing Academy, but this one ain't going to be close. I think the real interesting notes are going to be what backups shine. First off, here's the real prediction for this game. Who is the first quarterback to take a snap not named Garrett Nussmeier? Zach?
Yeah, I think it's Ricky Collins for me right now, just based off what I saw in fall camp. He was getting majority of those second-team reps and, frankly, looked a lot better than A.J. Swan.
Yeah, I agree. First off,
and you have a lot more invested in Ricky for the future. Ricky's ascension has been really interesting. Just obviously I haven't been out there, but to hear what's coming out of camp, to hear that he's getting acclimated this quick, it's exciting to a lot of people, particularly down there in Baton Rouge. So I think Ricky's probably going to be the first person off the bench.
If you ask me about my eye test, I don't think it's particularly close. I think Ricky Collins is a lot better than A.J. Swan. I think I'd say there's an argument between is Colin Hurley going to beat out A.J. Swan for the third string spot. I mean, because Colin looks sharp. He does look sharp. I think if they really had to, they would turn to A.J. Swan first. But I think if it had to play out, if it was like a 2020 season where just nothing's going right, I think eventually they would get Colin Hurley in there. But talk about investments for the future. I think they've got a pretty big investment coming in for 2025. That quarterback battle should be fun. And, we all talk about the implications of that. And what happens if a true freshman comes in and what happens to all the other guys in the era of the transfer portal era? It's a scary dilemma to consider. And then there's a whole other element of will Nussmeier even possibly return? Back. Yeah. Do y'all want to reveal what you expect Nussmeier to do this year, or is that a little too teasing for the rest of that? Go, Van, what do you expect from Nussmeier this year?
I think he's going to have a fantastic season. I think at times we're going to be frustrated. It's just kind of in his DNA. We only threw 4 picks the entire year last year. But I think the offense will play with a different swagger and a different sense of purpose with him because of, his play style and how infectious it is. If he lights it up, he's gone. I think he'll turn it up, but not light it up. I think he'll have a very solid season, with some great numbers. But I'm leaning towards seeing another year of Garrett Nussmeier next year.
Zach, what you think?
Yeah, no, I second that. I think this is a guy who, he's a true gunslinger. I think you're going to get roughly 3,800 yards, 35 touchdowns. I mean, if he throws 3,800 yards, it's about 315 yards a game over 13 games, I think. Throw for that many yards, 30-plus touchdowns. He's going to throw the picks, and that's kind of what Van alluded to is there are going to be times where you're scratching your head a little bit and wondering why the hell did he make that throw. But it's in his DNA, like you said. It's a guy who's going to thread the needle and test his luck. I think he's going to come back in 2025, and you ultimately have Bryce learn from him. But I would suspect that he comes back for 2025 and gets another year under his belt. But I expect a big-time year for Nussmeier because he's a guy who's itching to get on the field. He's a guy who's itching to showcase his talent. And, he's got a boatload of it. So all the interceptions and decision-making questions aside, he's bursting with talent. I think he's going to have a big-time 2024 season right now.
Okay, so – hear me out. One of the things that makes what Jaden Daniels did just so rare is that he put up a season with 50 touchdowns with only 4 turnovers, right? That's what made him so exceptional last year. So do I think that Nussmeier can kind of come close to that level of production? Yeah, I could see 30 touchdowns and 3,500 yards from Nussmeier this year. I do think the interceptions realistically are going to go up a little bit, but 10, you know what I mean? But that's still a good season if we throw 10 picks. And yeah, at times it might get you in trouble, but I think he's clearly shown enough. Here's as to whether he comes back or not. Here's a big piece of the puzzle. Doug Nussmeier is a massive proponent of taking a red shirt and playing out your college career. Okay. He loves the Peyton Manning approach to it. Okay. In fact, if you remember, Garrett Nussmeier did not play in the bowl game against Kansas State in 2021 because he couldn't have another game without taking a red shirt.
I was so pissed.
Which, hey, by the way, you think you're pissed then. Think about if he ends up going pro this year and it was all for nothing, right? So anyways, my point is, unless he's a top 3-round draft pick, which maybe even first-round draft pick, he might stay another year. Personally, I believe he will be a top 3-round draft pick prospect. And I think statistically speaking, most guys are gone if they're a top 3-round guy. I think he gone. I think this is his last year in an LSU uniform. I think he's got a good year coming. So anyways, all right, let's get to a super chat here from Devin Johnson. Have any of you heard the new speakers in Tiger Stadium? Can't say that I have. I have seen a little bit of the LED lights. Zach, have you heard the speakers at all?
No, haven't yet. But on Wednesday, a couple of the media guys are getting a tour of Tiger Stadium. So I would assume we get to hear those speakers for the first time. And from people that I've talked to, I heard it's ridiculous. So I'm excited to see what it sounds like.
Yeah.
What's
absolutely.
so controversial about the LED? Why is everyone hitting me up at Baton Rouge about this? If someone explain to me why it's so controversial to have a light system in the stadium. My mom hit me up about this. She doesn't like it. What's the big deal?
All right, here's the negatives on it. Obviously, the positives are that brighter, you get to change colors, right? The negatives are a lot of people complain it's a bit of like a seizure procedure that they put on, where it's like flashing and all these different colors. Photographers like to complain, particularly on the field photographers, when they get that touchdown picture, the lights turn off at the last second and it ruins their, a lot of them. It's like once in a lifetime shots sometimes. Think about like that shot of John Emery with Shaq pointing behind him for the touchdown. Like that's like a once in a lifetime shot for these guys. And of course, if your LED lights are blinking, it ruins those. A lot of people look at them as kind of cheap, tacky, whatever. All I'm going to tell you is I would imagine the maintenance and ease of use are way easier because those old stadium lights, they take like an hour to warm up. It's something ridiculous like that. Whereas these you can turn it on and off in seconds. So there's going to be some advantages to it. I imagine they're cheaper as well and probably cheaper to replace and maintain. So that's kind of the downsides of it. I think ultimately it'll be better. And I think the negatives that come with that you can easily fix. But the color show that they were showing the other day, did you see? They had a clip of, it was like literally like a student walking by filmed it. It was like going all purple and gold in the stadium. Mm-hmm. I think they have plans to use those bad boys. Of course, change for a lot of people there, especially in a tradition laden program, is going to get some people freaking out. Anyway, all right, let's move on. South Carolina at Columbia. Lenoris Sellers, the elite runner at quarterback for South Carolina. Of course, Spencer Rattler departs, where he may be the Saints starting quarterback by week 16. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, enough stirring the pot here. South Carolina at South Carolina. What you think, Van? You think Nussmeier chokes in his first true road game?
No, we'll win. We're going to win this game. This game is going to be – Sellers is dynamic. Like, Sellers can play. This game up against a dual threat QB, a guy who was a record setter there in South Carolina. It's going to be a test for the defense, scheme-wise and matchup-wise, right? Perk's going to have to be on the ball a little bit. That's going to be a tougher game than people think. We're going to win it. I think LSU wins this game by – I mean, South Carolina is kind of in a weird mode in terms of, where they are with Beamer and where he has the team at and, like what's going on. I think it's going to be a tougher game on the road than people think, but I do think that we're going to win. I'm looking at something like 27-20, but it's going to be a little bit of a tougher game than people think.
Zach?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think a lot of people are going to classify this one as kind of a trap game just because it's a noon kickoff in Columbia. It's an early game. I think LSU does ultimately win 37-24, but it's going to be a test for the defense, and it's going to be one of the first major tests that they have to go about with Sellers. I mean, his escapability is tremendous. You're going to see Harold Perkins working sideline to sideline. I mean, this is going to be a one for him where he kind of, gets his feet even more wet leading into SEC play and stuff. It's going to be a big one for him. 37-24, I think LSU pulls it off, but I think this is one that's nothing to kind of like look over.
That's a big win. Look, here's the deal, man. This will be Nussmeier's first true road environment in the SEC. He is going to have to overcome some stuff because it's going to be a tough game. I look at the way these defensive players, not this defense, I'm very careful to say that, these defensive players struggled to contain Jalen Milroe a year ago. And hopefully somewhere in Blake Baker's playbook, he's got a QB contain call somewhere. I don't know. Especially with a guy like Harold Perkins who can hunt down any athletic quarterback. I think South Carolina is going to give you some punches and you're going to have to respond. Here's the deal. I might have picked an L on this had I not seen Garrett Nussmeier lead those guys on a 99-yard drive to win the game against Wisconsin in the bowl game. Kid's got ice in his veins. And I think he's going to lead a game-winning drive against South Carolina on the road. And I think I'm going to take LSU just barely. They're gonna come from behind, and we're talking like a 3-point, 2-point win, whatever it is. It's going to be something in the ballpark of 27-24 Tigers, and I think that's going to be probably one of the first games where you see the defense respond and show some pride. I think one of the things that stood out to me in fall camp is how much they embraced and loved Blake Baker and how much energy they showed. And I think they're going to start showing signs of improvement as the season goes on. By the way, veteran-laden defense. A lot of people don't quite grasp that. You're going to have guys like Braden Swinson, Jacobian Guillory. You got Parrish Shand. All these guys are seniors. You got West Weeks, who's going to be a part of this defense. He's a senior. You got Greg Penn, Sage Ryan, Major Burns. A lot of this defense, this is their last go. And Harold Perkins is probably done too. Hey, Blake Baker, the 2025 defense is going to need a complete reloading. Maybe that's a good thing. We'll have to see what's on the field for you, but a lot of veteran guys on this defense and a lot of guys who have a lot of pride in themselves who are sorry, drop my pen. I'm writing down y'all's schedules. A lot of guys who are tired of people talking about this defense. I think we're going to see some pride. I think LSU wins a very, very close one. Okay. Let's move on to the other Los Angeles team. Van, I'm going to start with you, but I have a very specific question. Okay. LA Rams, LA Chargers, UCLA, USC. Who do you hear the most about living in Los Angeles? Can you rank them 1 through 4? Which teams do you hear about the most?
Oh, the Rams are 1.
Really?
The Rams are 1. SC is 2.
Okay.
The Chargers are 3.
Okay.
And UCLA is a distant 4.
Yeah. Oh, man. Boy. I'm actually kind of surprised people know the Rams play there already. Remember when they went to the Super Bowl and it's like, most of Los Angeles doesn't even know they have a football team,
Well, the Rams, after that Super Bowl, things changed a little bit. And the Rams had a lot of things happen around, SoFi, the new stadium, home of the Rams.
Yeah.
I think really the Chargers are still trying to find their footing in LA, even though they have a pretty healthy fan base. SC, man, there was so much talk around Lincoln Riley coming to SC and what that meant for SC. And I'm just telling you, man, a lot of these fans here are dejected. They don't think he wants to be here. They were looking for SC to come back. It's a tough season right there in downtown LA. But UCLA right now, they're completely off the map. The program's in shambles.
Interesting. Well, and look, man, Chip Kelly left them in a bad spot. I find it hilarious what happened there, but not utterly shocking given we're in the era of NIL and we're in the era of transfer portal and the stress. Like Chip Kelly just wanted to call plays, but that being said, it is funny that they thought about firing him and they're like, we need consistency with our program. We need to put some trust and give this guy some time. And he's kind of like, damn it, I wanted to get fired and get that buyout. But he's like, I can't wait. I'm going to go to Ohio State and coach a loaded team and have a chance to win a natty and just be a football coach, not a lobbyer anymore. So with that being said, do you have any faith in the Bruins to pull the upset in Tiger Stadium?
It's not going to be a competitive game. They're not going to be ready to play. I don't think the team's going to have a particularly good season. I think they'll be a little bit – it's an early in the season game, but they'll still be a little mentally spent by the time they get there. LSU will roll. This would be a big win, as big of a win as you can have with another Power 4 team. I'm looking at maybe like 35-10.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there are some athletes there at UCLA left over from the Chip Kelly era. I just do not see them having a great season this year, and I don't see them being able to muster. They won't be able to meet the moment with this game emotionally. I really don't think so. This team is not built to play in a place like Tiger Stadium. It would be 35 or maybe even 38-10.
All right, Zach, does LSU make blue sissy again?
Yeah, no, I say 37-17. I don't think it's particularly close. I don't think UCLA can come into Tiger Stadium and compete in that atmosphere. I think LSU just has too much firepower, too much star power, and really just gets it done and cruises to this one. There's really not much more for me to elaborate on. Van kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold you to too much suspense. I think that program is completely rebuilding. I'm trying to look at their players and figure out who was a star, who did this and that. I'm like, there's really not much that is going on there. I mean, there's not much reason for optimism. That being said, sometimes teams rally around a new coach and have some optimism. And look, man, coming to Baton Rouge is a brutal sentence. Shout out to this game, though, for doing something that needs to happen in college football. A true home and home. Okay. I'm not saying I hate neutral site games, but because of the neutral site games always being an out of conference game, and because teams only get 3 to 4 out of conference games, and because a lot of these teams want a neutral site game, then they want 2 cupcakes. You know what I mean? You don't get out of conference road games. At least with this conference realignment, you're going to start getting some wild matchups that we haven't seen, like Oregon at Ohio State, you know what I mean? Or USC traveling to, Penn State or whatever, So shout out to LSU and UCLA for putting together something. LSU, of course, traveled to UCLA, and the demise of Ed Ogeron began in 2021 as LSU got dismantled by Chip Kelly, and they ended up with Brian Kelly by the end of the year. But I think LSU takes care of business here. I think they're going to get cooking. I think this is going to be Ricky Collins' game to hand it off to Caden Durham, and I think Caden Durham has a big game in this one in the fourth quarter when it's all squared away. So that being said, let's check the scoreboard here. We're 4 games in, and we're all 4-0. LSU off to a good start. Should be in the top 10, looking real good there. We're going to keep on going in just a bit, but I do have to get to some sponsors. Remember what DA said, guys. It is brief. So we're going to talk about our sponsors real quick, and then we're going to be right back. Won't be long. We're going to talk about y'all know who brings our show, our title sponsor each and every year. It is Celebrity Theaters, guys. Celebrity Theaters is, of course, the only locally owned and operated theater in Louisiana. Because they're locally owned and operated, you're guaranteed to see a cleaner facility, better service, better prices, and local management. Guys, they've got locations in Baton Rouge and where's my grab? Baton Rouge and Ruston, and they have the leather reclining seats that is a must for me to go to any theater. They do weekly promotions, making it affordable for you to attend as well. Monday, of course, is their senior savings day, where it's $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. Tuesday's Bargain Tuesday, discounted movie tickets for all. Wednesday is college night. And Thursday is at the Baton Rouge location only, Thursday, where they have discounted bar tickets. Van, did you see the Deadpool movie?
I did.
How fantastic was that?
Loved it.
Oh, man. It was all
Shout out to all my
Zach,
people over at
you
Disney.
never saw that
Loved
movie,
it.
right?
Nah.
See, Zach is such a non-movie guy. It's funny. I was like, man, we gotta find you a hobby. And then I was like, hey, you want to join my fantasy league? He's like, bro, I got 4 already. I'm like, there's your hobby. That's what's going on. You're an absolute junkie.
Sports junkie, man. It is what it is. I need to find something else to do because it's getting ridiculous.
He's a robot. Hey, but
use that Celebrity Theaters coupon. Go check something out.
Yeah, right. But you picked the right career, at least. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, guys, let's talk real quickly about Genesis of Lafayette. Got a brand new attitude, like bing bang boom on a pink balloon, like I just do what I want to do, like ooh, brand new. And guys, let me tell you, there's a reason they sell more Genesis than any other dealer in Louisiana for the very best buyer experience or a new or luxury SUV or sedan. Call them toll free to set up your test drive, 877-856-2961. Make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you. And of course, Mike bought his girlfriend a Genesis there this summer, and she is Joby looks real nice driving it. And of course, our new sponsor this year, guys, all TigerBait live shows this year are proudly brought to you this football season by Struby's Steak and Seafood. Located on 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Struby prides itself in providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in their food and service you're just not going to see from any corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA Prime Angus Black Steaks, 100% certified Wagyu New York Strip. And for those looking for something outside of red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online at strubys.com and make sure to let them know TigerBait sent them in. And guys, look, me and Zach went out there the other day to meet the owners and talk with them about it, man. And I had that Wagyu New York Strip with some hollandaise sauce on it, man. Woo! I kid you not, man. You see the weight on me from that steak right now. That's why Van is saying wow. And it's the kind of calories where you're packing it on and you're like, worth it. Yeah. This is an experience.
You gotta live. You gotta live.
Anyways, guys, real good stuff. One thing I love about all our sponsors is they're all sponsors that we've experienced. We don't want to promote people that we're going to be sending our followers to a crappy experience. So that is one of the awesome things. We only talk to local owners and whatnot. I mean, it's not like we have a corporate sales team or anything. All of our sales are done by me and Mike go out, experience something, and we're like, hey, is the owner in? Let me talk to him real quick. And we have a good conversation. I'm the world's worst salesman. Definitely. Absolutely world's worst salesman. That being said, let's see if I can sell you on this LSU football team as we get into the thick of the schedule. But the thick isn't quite here yet. We're gonna do thick with like no C's or anything and replace the C's with an N because we're going to South Alabama first. USA. All right. Van, are you really going to be anti-American for this game? You're wearing a cowboy hat. That seems sinful to go anti-America.
I'm not going anti-America. Never will. The quest to make a perfect and better America is what I'm into always. Of course, come together and stop being so divisive. Everybody, we're all Americans. Say this. Having said that, South Alabama is going to get their asses kicked. It's not going to be a close game. I guess leading into, and I'll ask you guys this, being that this game won't be very competitive, however, it is the week before a bye, going into the Ole Miss game, which we'll talk about next. I guess the question is not even so much about the score, about what do we want to see from LSU in this game, really coming into the teeth of their schedule now. Like we've played some competitive games before this, or some teams that have some decent personnel before this, but now we are getting into the teeth of it. How do you want the team to be playing? What do you want to see out of them during the South Alabama game? I think that's more of the conversation around the game. The game's not going to be competitive.
Yeah.
The game's going to be something like 50-0. but like, what do you want to see from the team in the game, and how do you want to see the game managed going into the toughest part of the year?
Can I give you a really good answer to that question you're asking? Healthy. I want to see him healthy. That's what I'm looking for in a game like this is do not bang your guys up. Give some dudes some rest. I think my bugaboo this season, I'm already predicting what's going to upset me more than anything else is I'm going to be asked a lot, why aren't we feeding the ball to Caleb Jackson more? Because they love to rotate the backs. They really love Josh Williams, and I love Josh Williams too. I just think you need to use him situationally, and I think Caleb Jackson is an absolute man beast out there. Please keep him healthy. I'm going to skip next. Since I'm already talking, I'm going to just go ahead and give it LSU going to win. I think it's not going to be particularly close. I'm not going to sit here. Y'all ever watch a sports show where they're like breaking down the opponent and LSU's playing like, Southern or McNeese or, South Alabama, and they're like, oh yeah, their quarterback, Gio Lopez. No, I'm not going to waste your time here. LSU's going to crush them. I refuse to waste any time breaking down South Alabama's roster. That being said, go hit us with what you got, Zach. You pulling USA upset?
Yeah, no, nothing there. For me, look, I think kind of what Van was saying, I think this is where you kind of solidify your backup rotations a little bit more. I think you get a test to that during Nicholls, where you kind of throw in Ricky Collins, throw in a little bit of, J.K. Johnson, P.J. Woodland. But for me, I think it's where P.J. Woodland needs to kind of emerge and become that starting corner next to Ashton Stamps.
Juicy. God, dog, Zach. We're talking about South Alabama, and you're throwing some juice out here.
Yeah, for me,
keep squeezing.
Look, the plan for me all along was for Sage Ryan to get back to his natural position of safety and ultimately throw in a youngster at the cornerback position alongside Ashton Stamps. And for me, that's going to be P.J. Woodland. I'd like to see P.J. Woodland get into that first-team slot, come SEC play, because he needs to get some reps under his belt. And I think that Nicholls State game, I think that South Alabama game, I think those are two opportunities for him to get some significant snaps under his belt, kind of get his feet wet at the college game. So I think this is a perfect opportunity and ultimately get the win, maybe 49-14. It's going to be a blowout victory, nothing competitive whatsoever. But this is where you start to see rotations emerge going into SEC play.
Let me tell
Zach,
you.
let me ask you something real quick. Can I ask you guys both something?
Hit me.
LSU secondary, when it's playing at its best this season, Preston and Zach, what's the personnel that you feel like will be represented in the secondary? Like,
I'm so glad you asked.
After we've tried a couple of guys, right? Tobiano, him figuring all his stuff out, and I've seen Jordan Allen get some run with the ones during camp. What is the LSU secondary going to look like when it's playing at its best and they've got some experience during the season? Who are going to be the guys back there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to start with Ashton Stamps, obviously. He's going to be the leader of that cornerback room, and he's looked fantastic during camp. This is the guy who you could pencil in as a starter probably after day one. He looked that good to me. I was really impressed, and he carried that into the rest of the camp. So he's your cornerback one right there. And alongside him, if you're talking about your best group, it's going to be either J.K. Johnson or P.J. Woodland. And for me, I'd like to see the youngster and P.J. Woodland kind of get some significant reps under his belt and show what he's about. I think this is a guy who has all the intangibles of being a good cornerback in the SEC, put on a little bit more weight. But year one, go get your feet wet. So I think he's the cornerback on the opposite side of Ashton Stamps. And then Major Burns at the star. He's looked fantastic. I mean, I think this is where he's going to really find his bread and butter at the safety spot. Jordan Gilbert, and then put Sage Ryan back there. I don't think Jordan Allen's going to be a guy who starts all the way into SEC play. I think ultimately you put Sage Ryan back at his natural position and work from there. And then you're going to have some youngsters kind of emerging as well, whether it's Deshaun Spears, Kylan Jackson. But if you're talking about that perfect rotation, it's probably going to be Jordan Gilbert and Sage Ryan at the safety slots.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit because I think we've kind of seen Sage Ryan play his part, and I think Sage Ryan, if this is performing optimally, that means your talent is playing smart and well as well. So I'm going to lean heavily on who's showing me the most raw talent right now. Deshaun Spears, I think, oozes the most talent of any of these guys. I think anybody in the defensive backfield, actually, as a safety. I'm not saying he has those pure coverage skills, but as a true safety, yeah, he's a hoss. So if you get him starting at free, honestly, either of the safety positions he could start at, and I'd be pretty happy with, because he's got a big enough body to play strong. And mind you, in this system, your star back kind of takes a lot of that tackling box play work away from the strong safety in this system. So it plays more coverage zone type situation. Jordan Gilbert, I think, is your next most talented safety back there. Not to say Kylan Jackson or Jordan Allen are far behind, but if you're making me pick, I'd go Jordan Gilbert at this point. Obviously, I need to watch a lot more tape and film on him as things go on. It's one of those things where I wish we had a freaking scrimmage and I could have seen, Nussmeier went 13 of 24. Here's who had the PBUs, but we don't. Corner number 1, I think Ashton Stamp's got to be your guy. I think if he doesn't emerge into that guy that we saw flashes of last year, they were talking about him a lot in fall camp, and now we're talking about him again. I think he has to be your number 1 corner. If he's not, I think that's not ideal. And for your second corner, I'll go split PJ Woodland, of course, but I'll throw a little curveball in there. How about Taviano? I mean, talk about a highly recruited guy who just hadn't put it all together.
The cornerback position during
I know.
camp. He was working with the star.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, they kind of threw him to the bottom, but like, do I think he lacks talent? Is it that he lacks talent or lacks discipline?
I think he's a tweener, and I think that's why he could be. I think that's why he could thrive so well at the star position, because that's kind of a tweener spot where you're not really getting necessarily bread and butter in one spot. You can kind of rotate all over the field. And for Toviano, I mean, I didn't even see him take a single rep with the cornerbacks during camp. So I think for him, he's going to try to work at that backup star behind Major Burns. And
hold up now. He's also got to be behind Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson at star.
I think Toviano overcame him as the backup star.
Okay. Well, I think that he's talented enough. He needs to be on the field. Okay. And at star, I'll go Major Burns. He's, 5th year guy. We're talking about, a guy who really seems to fit that role well, by the way. It seems like he's been square peg, round hole his time at LSU. I think that's your best bet. That's honestly. And I think Taviano needs to go in somewhere. Okay, whether that be star, whatever. He's talented. I think he needs to get out there. Anyways, that's my. I guess the biggest takeaway there would be Deshaun Spears. I think he's your most talented safety, and if you could get him up to speed fast enough, that would be freaking amazing. All right, now the super thick part of LSU schedule. Ole Miss. This is the highest rated team that they've had in a preseason since Archie freaking Manning was taking snaps for them. Ole Miss has had some good seasons, but they've never. 2 years ago under Lane Kiffin, that was their first 10-win regular season ever as a program. If you look about it, you think about Ole Miss, you're like, oh yeah, it's a program with some history, right? Right? Not at that level. This could be a historic team for Ole Miss. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Ole Miss on the national level. I think they're a dark horse to possibly win the SEC. They killed in the transfer portal. They bring back Jackson Dart. They have that dynamic offense. Van, what you see in this game? You think LSU is the favorite in this game, by the way?
I'm going to tell you guys something here. This is where it's going to get controversial. So most people, when they're looking at our schedule, and they're picking the 3 losses, because a lot of people are saying 9-3. You're telling me that LSU is going to lose 3 out of these 4 games is what they're basically saying. And we're going to lose to Ole Miss. We're going to win at Fayetteville. We're going to lose at A&M. We're going to lose at Bama. We're going to lose in Baton Rouge to Bama. The Ole Miss game, we're going to win. We're going to win this game. Now, there's going to be some trouble in the schedule coming up. I know people are going to think that I'm pumping a little sunshine. There's going to be some trouble in the schedule coming up. But I talked to my friend Carter Bryan about this. We had a good conversation. The bye placement for LSU is very key here. You have a bye before the Ole Miss game, 2 byes this year. You have a bye before the Alabama game. Okay. Ole Miss has bad luck with the byes. We're going to get them coming off of a bye. They are going to be in the thick of their schedule here coming to Baton Rouge. We're going to win this game. Now, they're a good team. Talent-wise, they're a better team than LSU. We have to see how the transfers work out. You never know how the transfer is going to work out. You hit on some, others you don't hit on. But when I look at how the schedule plays out for us coming off of a bye and then coming off of a South Alabama game, which will essentially be an elevated scrimmage or like a bye we're coming through. It's a live game, don't get me wrong. LSU is going to win this game in Tiger Stadium 28-24, 24-21. we're going to win that football game. Now, there's trouble on the horizon after this, but that game, we're going to win.
I'm completely behind that. When I put out my season prediction today, I was completely on the exact same page. I think this is a game where you come off of a bye and you get the time to recover and obviously use that new recovery center to the best of its abilities. But you get to get back into a rhythm, and you're going up against an Ole Miss game who's going to play their 7th game in a row. I mean, at some point you're gonna need that break, and LSU luckily gets it before that one. And I really think LSU is going to be coming into this one with just so much juice. I mean, after last year, that loss in Oxford was ridiculous. So I think you come into this one with some juice, and I think you come out 31-28. This is going to be a really good one. I'm excited. Look, I'm going to kind of foreshadow here, but I think you split that one between Ole Miss and Bama. You split them. I don't know if you quite win both. And so I'm going to say that they win this one because I think they have a really legitimate shot to do it.
Interesting. So both of y'all have LSU going 6-0. Beating Ole Miss. Obviously, that's going to be a highly touted game. Probably College Game Day will be in town. I keep on talking about. So first off, I just want to say this is the most manageable schedule LSU that I can ever remember. Right? There's not a game on this schedule where I can't convince myself that LSU has a legitimate shot to win this, and not just this LSU team. Like a lot of LSU teams, I would sit here and be like, "There's not a game on the schedule LSU doesn't have a shot." Ole Miss, we talk about, and Nagy brought up to his credit a really good scheduling advantage LSU has, being that it was a bye, and then you had South Alabama the week before, so LSU should be fresh and rested. And Ole Miss is coming off a bunch of big games. It's at Tiger Stadium, and frankly, it's Lane Kiffin, who has been a very good coach during his time at Ole Miss, but sometimes his consistency in these big games just isn't there. So there's an argument. I just didn't get to see enough from this defense yet. It's a shame that they pulled media access. I mean, almost every practice we went to was more of the same, where they did 11-on-11, but we didn't get a ton of action of that. We didn't get a great vantage point of it as well. It was a lot of drills and stuff. If we had gotten a Tiger Stadium scrimmage and I got to go up there and do my box score for it and all that good stuff, there's a chance this defense could have really turned my head. I still think LSU has some struggles in the defensive backfield. And I think Ole Miss is going to get the best of LSU. I think LSU drops its first L here. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I think that this is a team that's going to lose some games this year for LSU. I think they are rebuilding a lot. This defense needs to improve tremendously to make any kind of special run, and I just haven't seen it yet. So I'm not going to blow smoke up your what and tell you that I think this is a championship run team here when I haven't seen anything to lead me to that. Also worth noting, I mean, the offense is, I am worried if they're going to have some turnovers in big spots. You know what I mean? And we'll see. I think LSU drops its first L here. All right, moving on. At Arkansas, Mr. Lathan, the gentleman from Los Angeles, has LSU 6-0, very likely a top 5 team, going on the road to Arkansas to play another dynamic athlete at quarterback. Van, do you think Coach Pittman coaching for his life in this game? You think he pulls it off?
LSU's going to lose.
Ooh-wee.
It is. Listen.
That gets a bro.
Just listen. This is the type of game that a team like this loses. A team that's young in some spots, that's breaking in a new quarterback, that has players everywhere, that's coming off of a really emotional win, that the next week has to go on the road. This is going to be the toughest stretch of the season for LSU. That the next week has to go on the road to play a rival for that stupid boot. They're going to lay an egg, and they're going to lose the game.
That's great. I mean, I get it.
And hold up. Worth noting.
I just need now you have me just want to go into scout mode and go look at this team in depth a little bit more. I mean, I didn't have them losing this one, but I get the mental toll could be different than the physical toll. Damn, I like it.
This is a game, to be honest with you, that if you simulated the game in your college, LSU wins the game 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10.
Yeah,
when you look at the talent,
I get it.
They're going to lose that game though.
There's always that one game that LSU drops. Like, there's always that one, like, head scratcher.
Right.
Like, I guess this could be like that one head scratcher for me, at least. You sound confident. And I like that. What do you think the score's going to be? Like, you think it's just like this, like, down to the wire? Like,
I think it's going to be real close in terms of it's going to be not unlike the game that we should have lost at Arkansas a couple of years ago. Maybe the offense isn't clicking on all cylinders. They don't have very much offensively, so I'm looking at a game that's maybe like 18-14, 18-15.
Oh my God! What a slogfest! Do
Do
you know that'll be in my most viewed post game show ever? If LSU
it's going to be a frustrating game,
is a top 5 team and loses to an Arkansas team 18-14. Oh my God!
I'm telling you, it's going to be that's going to be a game where you guys are upset. Whiskey and Wine is upset. Carter is upset. Everybody, as I'm watching all of you guys, because I have all of you guys on different tabs, just sending in the super chats and doing the whole nine. Like it's like when I watch this, that's going to be a maddening game because LSU is going to beat Ole Miss, be cruising, and then we're going to go through a little bit of adversity here in the middle of the schedule.
I'm with it.
All right, Zach, what's your thought on this one?
Obviously, based off my reaction, I got LSU coming out on top in this one. Obviously, Van's got me thinking like a little bit more now. I'll do a little bit more scouting when it comes down to it before I put in my my game prediction for the site and stuff. But I think LSU just has too many weapons. Obviously, Arkansas always plays it tight. Always a really good game against them. You can't really sleep on the Razorbacks. But I think LSU ultimately pulls it off. I say 24-17. I think they win by a score. But I think it'll be one that comes down to the fourth quarter, of course. But ultimately, I got them coming out on top.
And worth noting, Arkansas put out their depth chart today. They have Taylon Green, the 6'6", 230-pound athlete, 3-star quarterback.
Have you played with him in NCAA yet?
Oh yeah, I have. He's a beast.
He's a cheat code.
I beat 1037 Lafayette's producer James Mesh. I beat him with them, and he's just unstoppable.
Yeah,
he's like Lenore Sellers. You know who's really a cheat code is Nicholls Harbor for Nicholls Harbor for South Carolina. That 99 speed. He's like Tyreek Hill. He's unbelievable.
Oh, just vertical routes all day.
Oh, verts, dude. It's impossible to stop. I mean, not 4 times in a row. He's not messing that up. Anyways, Taylon Green's a beast in the game, but is he a beast in real life? I don't think so. I think LSU is going to handle him. I think the Tigers. Look, to Van's point, okay. Let's look at Arkansas' schedule. They do come off a bye, but hear me out. What does Arkansas play into that game? Well, they open with Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Obviously, that's a cakewalk. At Oklahoma State, at Auburn, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and then they get a bye. So coming into this game, they're going to be 2-4. Okay, they're going to be 2-4. Sam Pittman, he ain't coaching after the LSU game. He's going to get fired after the LSU game. I think he goes 2-5. And I think that's victim number 1 for LSU this year. By the way, worth noting that LSU's going to have multiple coaches who, if things don't go the right way, could be on the hot seat this season. Billy Napier at Florida is a big possibility. You have to think about Oklahoma coach if things don't go his way, because they had had a 6-6 season, then he had a 10-2 season. If he regresses back, which a lot of people think they're set for a 7-5, 6-6 season, he might not even be the coach there. I'm just pointing it out, the possibilities. Obviously, that could go a completely different direction, but so I think LSU takes the dub. I don't think it's particularly challenging. I think LSU 13, 14 points, something like that. It's comfortable, but it's not, at the same time, it's not like a free win or anything. Like, you didn't just go up there and, take a dub because we are talking about a refreshed Arkansas team, and we're talking about a team that is playing for its coach's life, in my opinion. I think Arkansas is just a dead man walking, though. All right, so we follow that up. We go on the road again to Texas A&M, where that's a talented roster. Does Mike Elko have that team rebuilt and ready to roll? Van, thoughts?
Not scared of them. We're going to win. I'm zero fear. Everybody is saying Arkansas, the loss is a little bit of a wake-up call. We get back to business. We're going to win this game. Okay? Now, once again, we got some attrition coming up. But we're gonna win this game. I haven't seen. There are so many question marks at Texas A&M. This is the first time that Texas A&M won't be massively overrated going into a season, and the national media seems to be shooting them a little bail because of it.
Yeah,
they seem to be saying they're painting Texas A&M as the sleeping giant. They do have a talented roster. My problem with the talented roster talk is I actually like to judge players on what they do on the field when they get an opportunity. I know sometimes that guys don't play for coaches. They're out of position in terms of scheme and things like this. A lot of the players that have been much ballyhooed in the greatest recruiting class of all time, we haven't seen them put it together on the field yet. And so to me, I have absolutely zero fear of A&M. I think that we'll be a better, more disciplined team on defense. We will win the game in College Station.
That's a dub. Now, worth noting, Vegas has LSU favored to win every single game except for Texas A&M on the road. That's kind of where I'm getting at, that LSU, I could see LSU winning every game. I think LSU has a chance. There's an argument for LSU for certain in every single game. And it's as simple as that. Now, also worth noting, Vegas has LSU. I think the over-under is 8.5 for LSU on wins. So I don't know exactly how that one works out, how you favor a team to win 11 out of 12 games, but then the over-under is somehow 2.5 below that. But hey, man, I guess that's why I work for TigerBait and I don't set odds at Vegas. Zach, are you siding with Vegas? I think they're 1-point dogs.
Look, I love Van's logic. I mean, it makes sense. And there's definitely been a lack of production from that top class. But for me, look, I kind of look into the history of things and stuff. And LSU hasn't gotten a victory at Kyle Field since 2016. And I can't really see them going in there and doing it this year. I know it's a first-year head coach in Mike Elko. So for me, that kind of goes against my logic because I would pick LSU for the most part to go in and kind of take down a first-year head coach. But for me, Kyle Field's such an electric atmosphere, for better or for worse. I know a lot of people in the comments probably hate me for that, but it is evident in fact. Look, it's an electric atmosphere. There's a reason LSU hasn't gone there and won a game since 2016, and I'm not quite sure that this is the year that they go there and get it done. Look, man, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU won by any means. But for me, if I'm putting in my official prediction, I say that LSU loses that one in a close one. It might even go to overtime, but I say LSU ultimately loses 27-24, kind of going down to the wire. I think that's the first loss of the year, and you kind of go into a bye week and regroup going into Alabama week. But for me, I got them going down in this one, unfortunately.
A loss for LSU. Is that LSU's first loss? Yeah, that is. LSU
is, yeah.
Was 7-0. And so we're talking about a top 5 LSU team.
Yeah.
Dogged by the Aggies, man.
I know. And like when you put it that way, like it makes me sit back and say like, damn.
Yeah.
Just because like, man, I hate Texas A&M. Like I could put that on paper. Like I don't like Texas A&M whatsoever. But I'm just not quite sure this is the year that LSU gets that one done. So
I get it.
Is it that you don't like them because they're going to get your boy Napier fired early in the season?
Dude, that schedule for Florida, that is a gauntlet.
dude, he's gone.
By
the way, I texted Glenn Gilbo today. For those of you, Glenn Gilbo just accepted a job at Tiger Rag, so he's back on the LSU beat. And first off, as a person, I really do like Glenn. We're friends, we talk, but he blocked me on Twitter about a year ago. So I said, Glenn, now that we're back on the beat together, you can't surely keep me blocked. And he said, "Oh, I thought I unblocked you. Let me check with Billy to see if it's okay first." Of course, he's talking about Billy Napier. And I said, "Hey, Glenn, you better kiss up to him, man. He might have a Panamsky position available for you at whatever D3 team he's coaching next year." So I had to tease him a little bit there. Anyways, in this game, let me tell you something. I kind of was working through my schedule prediction here, and I kind of put odds on what games LSU, what odds LSU has to win each game. Basically, if they play 10 times, how many games does LSU win? And a lot of these games, LSU had pretty good odds. And a lot of them, it was kind of in the middle. And the fact is like, okay, I think LSU slightly favored in a bunch of games. But the thing is, if you have 4 games where you have a 60% chance to win them, it just because it's 60% each doesn't mean you're going 4-0. You know what I mean? You're gonna drop.
Yeah.
That's the way these odd things work. And I do think LSU is better than Texas A&M this year. And I do think LSU should take a dub here. But I think that they're just gonna drop one that they want, that they shouldn't, basically. I think this Texas A&M team, it's got talent on the roster still, despite losing a bunch of, portal talent. I mean, I'm looking around and I'm seeing guys like Chase Basantis, who's a freaking beast on their depth chart. By the way, the depth chart they put out there, I've never seen the word "or" listed more in my life. I mean, you would think it's a rowing contest at Texas A&M's depth chart. There's so many "ors." Okay. Terry Bussey, he's listed as their starting kick returner. That's intriguing to me, man. Le'Veon Moss, the Baton Rouge native from Estruma High School, he's listed as their starting running back. I think he's one of the guys who got a bunch of oars, though, but he was the first one listed. Anyways, Connor Wegman, does he build off? He had a freshman season, looked pretty good. He beat LSU in a game he looked remarkable in, and then he gets hurt so early last season. It's hard to tell. Does Micah go have a better system? I think Texas A&M is going to be an okay team. I do think LSU is going to be the better team, but I think sometimes the die just don't roll your way. And this is the one where I picked the die not to roll LSU's way. I think LSU takes another loss at Texas A&M. Now, that being said, had I gotten a better look at the defense and gotten to see that step that I genuinely saw that defense get better and better and better throughout fall camp. Had I gotten to see them in a full, 60-play scrimmage or whatever, I might pump LSU up a little bit here. But unfortunately, I just haven't seen it, so I don't want to sit here and lie to you. So we got one more commercial break through 8 games. We've got Van's got LSU 7-1. Zach has LSU at 7-1, and I have LSU at 6-2. We've got the final.
We're on the same page. We both said that they're going to lose a game that they should win. We just like you just
disagreed on the game. Yeah,
like, we got the same logic, but it's just like we just disagreed on the game. I like it.
I'll tell you the games that I think LSU's going to have to roll the dice on. Like basically within that, like let's put it like this: a greater than 20% chance that they lose, but like not in that 75+%, basically 25 to 75%. It's USC, South Carolina on the road. Okay, Texas A&M is one of them. Oklahoma's another. So like of those games, I think the odds are you're gonna mess one up, right? Especially with a gunslinger at quarterback. I think eventually the die won't roll your way. All right, everybody in the comments, I haven't been able to get to all your comments. When we get back from the break, I'm going to put where you have, if you've been following along with us picking the schedule, put the record after 8 games in the comments. We're going to put those on the screen before we dive back in. So I do have to get to some ads real quick. We're going to try to be quick here and get right back into it. But guys, y'all know who the title sponsor this is, guys. They make it possible every year to do this show. I'm very thankful for Celebrity Theater, my favorite theater. By the way, this was my favorite theater before they paid me to say they're my favorite theater. I loved them back in the Grand Cinema days. If you remember the Grand Cinema or even Oak Cinema 8, hit me up in the comments here. Okay. So anyways, guys, Celebrity, it's not just go and take for date night. They also do private events. Celebrity Theaters houses 8 to 10 auditoriums and depending on the location, whether you're interested in hosting a birthday party, private movie screening, corporate meeting, arcade party, whatever it is, they've got the perfect facility to meet your needs. Celebrity Theaters is proud to offer birthday packages for children of all ages. Let them handle everything from movies to entertainment to setup to cleanup. For more information or to book your birthday party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events. In fact, I threw a 1-year-old's birthday party this last year. It was so much effort. I said, I'm done with it. We're not doing that again. We're going to Disney World for his birthday. So that's how much I hate throwing kids' birthday parties. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Guys, if you're looking for an affordable venue to book your next school fundraiser, guys, this could be the right place for you. Remember, you can go online to celebritytheaters.com or email them at events@celebritytheaters.com. And of course, guys, another restaurant sponsor I'm just so proud to add to our lineup here. This is one that has literally saved my relationship at times because of their dream cake, which is an ice cream cake featuring Snickers and chocolate and Reese's. It's just a smorgasbord. I don't know any other way how to put it, but my wife loves that cake more than she probably loves me. So when we are upset and we get in our arguments, come home with one of those and all the problems are solved. Okay. Relationship advice here on the LSU Football Fix. Guys, one thing we try to do with all of our TigerBait sponsors is partner with locally owned businesses we've experienced firsthand and we know we can endorse, provide an outstanding experience for our listeners. This football season, we're proud to add Capital City Grill to our lineup. They fit right in. They're located on 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge. Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for your casual dining experience. They feature a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafood, pastas, steaks, with almost everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Guys, in this economy, we don't pass that up, okay? Don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win at their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Book your reservation online tonight at capitalcitygrill.net. Make sure to let them know TigerBait sent them in. And book your reservation online now. And our last advertisement of the evening, of course, we got to talk about Willy Wonka's Wonderland for an LSU fan. I mean, Alumni Hall. Tiger fans, I'm going to tell you the best place to get all of your LSU fan gear. Alumni Hall. Shop at their store off of Bluebonnet in Perkins Row or online at alumnihall.com. They've got it all from Nike, Champion, Johnny O, Onward, Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern, Tide, and more. They've got nice polos you've been looking for, hats, Yeti, and of course, they've got all the LSU baseball gear coming in. Shop now with them and you can earn rewards on future purchases at their Hall Pass Rewards program. And guys, I've got a discount code to share with you for all my friends and subscribers. When you shop, use the code TigerBait, all one word, TigerBait, to get 10% off your order in store or online. Go shop with my friends at Alumni Hall and use the code TigerBait to save. See, I don't think that was too bad of an ad break. Some people like to complain about the ads, but I feel like we do a good job. Just 2 little breaks, get them in. We got to pay our bills. Let's see where everybody else is at. So I'm the Nega Tiger right now. I'm 6-2. I'm getting kicked out of my alma mater. Okay, the manship school is rejecting I can't come speak to the classes. Nothing. I'm just kicked out of school. Those 2 are at 7-1. Big cojones. Kelly not only has the best name on the internet, best avatar too, by the way, for the South Park fans in the room. Van, are you a South Park fan?
I am. That Nega Tiger always makes me go, wow.
Did you not see my face? Dude, he said it, and I just looked up. I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
and I looked at you, and your eyes were bugging. I was like, oh no.
Oh, did we have a naysayer moment? Did we have a naysayer moment? Oh no.
I almost turned off my camera.
Bro, I see it written on Tiger droppings all the time, but every once in a while, I'm around somebody that says it, and I'm like,
Van, you can't be saying this in 2024. My God, my career is flying. All right.
I'm with you. I'm with Papa Tiger, Nega Tiger. I know the whole thing. I'm just, I went to McKinley, so.
Dog, you gonna get me shot. All right.
Or
worse, you gonna get my career canceled is what you gonna get. Right. Big Cone is 7-1. Hunter Trump is 7-1. Okay. 7-1. Okay. With the bus driver. Look, Preston is negative Nancy. That's probably from Kyle Parker's father there, Keith Parker. Mark Cumbie 8. No. All right. 7-1. Only questionable game is A&M. So hold up. Ole Miss is questionable at least. At least Ole Miss is questionable at best, right? I already put that one up there. I know how to pronounce this kid's name because I DM'd him. A Kunega moment.
Yes.
Y'all remember the linebacker kid, Noah Kunega?
Yeah.
Or Noah Naysayer, as they were calling him. Oh, Don. I didn't think that I'd be putting myself in this kind of controversy this early. But I guess just like LSU in deep waters at 6-2, I got to work my way out of this, right? So that's what we're going to try to do here on the LSU Football Fix as we dive on deeper here. All righty, what do we got up next? We got, just a small game. Remember, I told you this is probably the second largest game for LSU in terms of what it means, because this is going to set the tone for the post-Saban era. Now, I've looked up the rankings for the talent rankings. Of course, 247 puts out their like talent rankings, which is a composite of all their recruiting. As freshmen, their recruiting score of all the people on their roster. And Alabama is still the number one talent score team in the nation. Now, is that actual talent or what projected talent? Stars aren't perfect. Remember, I always say stars matter. It gives you a good basis score to analyze things. Basically, it tells you some analysts did sit down and watch the film and this was their opinion. It's not perfect, but I'm not watching film of 85 guys and telling you how talented this Alabama roster is. So the fact that that opinion leads up to them having the number one most talented roster in the country, and then I go back and look at that talent list, and no team outside of the top 10 has won a national championship since they started doing it in 2015. That tells you a lot. So I think it does matter. It's just a baseline. I think this Alabama team has some talent. Van, how does the post-Saban era begin in Baton Rouge?
This is by far the hardest game for me to pick. This would be a game where I would call my friend Carter Bryant, and him and I would have an hour or 2 hour conversation about the game. Power hour LSU. This is a tough game. Okay, so when you look at Alabama, you have to kind of look, to me, at what they lost and what they still have. Obviously, losing Nick Saban is a big deal. Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach. He's a really good coach. He coached his team up to beat an Oregon team twice that, honestly, I thought Oregon, player for player, was better than Washington was. He's got a way to get the very most out of all of his players. He's going to be working with more talent than he's ever had before at Alabama. However, you don't know a guy can do it until they can do it in the SEC. Alabama still hasn't really found it at receiver. And that bodes well for LSU defense, where the secondary will be tested. The game is in Baton Rouge. I just have a feeling we'll lose. It's a winnable game for LSU. It's I don't know what Alabama is going to be. They are a more talented team. You're not sure what Jalen Milroe is going to be and how he's going to be able to play. Like, I have a feeling that LSU is going to lose this game, that Alabama will be too well coached, that they'll be a little bit too talented for us. But I do think, unlike some of the games against Alabama in the past, to where we're competitive early and get just grinded on until we lose ourselves somewhere in the game, I think this game will come down to the last 2 or 3 possessions. But we just won't have enough guys to make plays to get off the field with the win. So I got LSU losing to Alabama probably 30-26 or something like that.
Interesting. All right, before I dive into Zach, I got a cameo appearance here. PG said LSU by 90 last night.
Oh!
First off,
there's Carter.
Lies. I was on Carter's show last night. It was the No Power Hour LSU with Carter, the no power, because I had no power, but I just did it from my cell phone and we made it work. He also says this: Zack and PG, the LSU Twitter goats. Van loves Matt Mock more than anyone in here. Well, I talked to Matt Mock earlier today. Do you need me to confess something to him, Van?
I tell Matt, like, I was watching the game one time and I was drunk out of my mind watching the game.
Yeah.
And I said, yo, whenever Mark cocks his pistol, is ready to go. Whenever Mark dropped back and throw the ball. Yeah. Pause. Boom. Michael Clayton. Boom. Skylar Grant. Whenever I had more faith. I hadn't had a faith in the quarterback like that until Burrow came. It took some while with Burrow. It took a while with Burrow, but like Mark, I had complete confidence we were going to win when he was out there. That's my guy right
there. Fun fact, I went to school with Michael Clayton. And another fun fact, shout out to Jacob Caboti, New Orleans Saints backup running back, 12 carries, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns, representing the Crusaders, baby. Christian life lives on. The school's been shut down for 5 years. And we ain't heard nothing. Okay. But Caboti, my boy, showing off for the Saints. He's going to make the 53-man roster and keep the alma mater alive. Okay. Dog. I'm so hype about that. All right. Anyways, Zach, let's talk some football. Is LSU set the tone for the post-Saban era? Get a W.
Look, for me, all along, I've said that LSU splits that Ole Miss and Bama game. It's going to be one that they drop ultimately, and I got them coming out on top against Ole Miss. And for me, look, DeBoer's a great coach. They are so talented. Like, I think it's really important to look at that roster from top to bottom. I mean, they got some absolute dogs. And for me, Jalen Milroe's escapability is going to give this defense fits. I really don't know if the secondary can hold up against him, and obviously the weapons that they have on the outside as well too. So for me, it's really just going to come down to, can the defense hold their end of the bargain? And I just don't think they can against this talented of an offense from Alabama. So for me, look, I got LSU going 10-2 this year, and this is going to be that second loss for me. It sucks because I know it sucks because it comes in back-to-back. Because I also had them losing to A&M on the road. But for me, I think you get through this little kind of adversity point in the season and continue chugging along. But I think ultimately they dropped that one to a super, super talented Alabama squad in Death Valley.
All right.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Because we got, before you go, Preston, I'm sorry, Preston, but before we go, ask you guys a question. Well, actually, I got to hear what Preston chooses first.
Okay. Hear me out. I don't believe in Jalen Milroe. I think he's dog water as a quarterback. The Heisman hype around Jalen Milroe was fueled by Matt House's incompetence. Okay? The dude sucks. If he doesn't have one lucky-ass pass against Auburn, we're talking about what a disappointing season that was for Alabama. Dude got carried. He doesn't fit in Kalen DeBoer's offense. I don't believe in Jalen Milroe, and I'm tired of pretending he's good. I'm tired of it. The offense was anemic at points. He got benched halfway through the season. He struggled. Okay, and he has a couple all right games. Matt House doesn't know how to call a spy, and all of a sudden we're believing he's great. Get out of here. I do think LSU drops this one, though. I think Alabama's got a lot of talent on defense, and I think offense is going to have a game where they turn the ball over. And I don't think it's going to be super high scoring. I just think it is what it is. LSU's going to drop it 21-17, something around that effect. And LSU gets its third loss of the year. I don't think it's going to be a sign of things to come. I think that the Kalen DeBoer era is going to have some success, but it's not going to be like this just juggernaut. You're not going to have to look up every year, and Alabama's almost guaranteed for 11 wins. But anyways, sorry to let y'all down. I just think
my question now.
Okay.
So we all three, because I figured that the three of us would have them losing the game. To you guys who have a much more in-depth knowledge of the roster than anybody else, what is the prescription for them to win the game?
I mean, you heard what I thought about Jalen Milroe. Contain him. Is he a dynamic athlete who can run the ball at an elite level? Absolutely. Is he a good quarterback who can make advanced reads and dice up your coverage? No. But that being said, I think LSU has some issues at DB. I think he's going to be able to move well enough with his legs to kind of minimize the effect of this front seven for LSU. He's going to find some guys running open, streaking down the sideline, right? And he's going to run around just enough to get the win. That's kind of what it comes down to. I just think that eventually, with a gunslinger, eventually he's going to come back to bite you. Eventually, he's going to have a good season. You're going to win some games, but every once in a while, Brett Favre had a stinker where he threw 3 picks. And I could see that coming. It's just which game does it come, and why not against a talented roster like Alabama? But that being said, I will still die on the hill that Jalen Milroe sucks.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, I hear where you're coming from. Just making him a pocket passer. Obviously, he's not the most talented quarterback in the world, but he can do it all with his legs, and I think that's going to give LSU fits. And for me, he has so much talent on the outside that he can utilize in so many different ways. LSU, I think they have serviceable defensive backs. I think Ashton Stamps is obviously your clear-cut number one guy, but I don't know if they have enough guys in the secondary to hold back this Crimson Tide offense. That roster is super talented from top to bottom. So for me, I just think the talent factor is where they kind of take that next step and take down LSU. But look, this isn't one that was easy for me. Like I said, it's a winnable game. I think they split Ole Miss and Alabama, but for me, I just think that Bama has just too much talent going into this one for this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very talented roster. And ultimately, guys, I think this LSU team is okay. I think they're good. I just didn't get to see enough to push LSU to that next level. And historically speaking, when LSU, you're looking at the team and you're like, well, I think they have some holes and some issues and blah, 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 right? But the schedule is real workable. Eventually, that mediocrity creeps in and they lose something they shouldn't. You know what I mean? We've seen that year in and year out. And in fact, some of LSU's best seasons have been the seasons where it's like, whoa, this schedule's a bunch of juggernauts. If you look at 2011 in that schedule that LSU was staring down through, you had to go to West Virginia, you had to play Auburn on the road. Okay, you still had to play Alabama. All that, Alabama on the road, by the way. Very tough schedule. And the thing is, LSU rose to it. That's the thing about special teams at LSU. They rise to it. On teams where, such as the next year, where the schedule was much more manageable for that 2012 team, but, they clearly had some issues on its offense. LSU, the mediocrity, still found a way to show itself even against other mediocre teams. And that's where I'm saying is like, I didn't get an opportunity to see enough to convince me that mediocrity won't creep in. I think it's going to be a good team. I just don't think we're going to have a great team this year. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd really like to. I was very close to going 10-2, very close, but I think they're just going to drop one they shouldn't, is what it comes down to. Anyways, let's move on, unless y'all have something to add on to that. Florida Gators. The coachless Florida Gators, because Billy Napier will almost certainly not be coaching that. In the middle of what might be the worst freaking November schedule I have ever seen in my life. I'm trying to pull it up real quick. Florida schedule, because I think that is brutal. It is pertinent to break down Florida's schedule. Okay, let's see here. Where does the madness start for them? We'll start in November. Georgia, Texas, the two preseason favorites to win the SEC, by the way. Then LSU. So you play those juggernauts. No bye, no nothing. You got Georgia at a neutral site, and then you got Texas on the road. This team's going to be beaten to hell and back. LSU, by the way, coming into that game, they also play Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Miami. Okay. LSU, and then looking at, maybe they just put all their energy into LSU as that last burst. Let's beat LSU and keep his job. They follow LSU up with Ole Miss. And then Florida State, who all of a sudden looks a lot more beatable. Don't get me wrong, but you got to get first off, Billy Napier has to beat Georgia, Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss, or any of them to keep his job. Zach, we're going to skip Van and go straight to you. This is your boy. Zach went to ULL, the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
Oh, on the side of the basin.
That's right. And Billy Napier was the coach there. Led Zach to an 11-win season while he was there. So
yeah, look,
they're tight.
I love Billy. I think he's a great person. It's just the cards aren't really falling his way, obviously, in Gainesville right now. For me, I don't think this is necessarily going to be kind of a cakewalk game. You don't go into the swamp and have a cakewalk game against Florida. I think it's going to be a close one. I'm not saying people are overlooking the Florida team at all. I think a lot of people are looking at that schedule, and obviously it's daunting. For me, obviously, LSU goes in there, and I think they get the win. But, look, Graham Mertz is kind of a game-managing quarterback. Montreal Johnson's a solid running back. They have some weapons on the outside and Wilson. So they got some guys to work with, some serviceable players. But ultimately, LSU just has too much talent in the trenches to win this one. And I think they win it 34-27. I think they win it by a score. But, yeah, man, I'd be pleasantly surprised if Billy was still the coach there come this game, because that schedule is schedule's ridiculous. It's probably the toughest November schedule I've ever seen, kind of like what Preston said. Look, I love Billy. I love Billy Napier. It is what it is. I've been obviously around him a lot, so it sucks for me to see him obviously end up going down that path. But I think LSU gets the win here and kind of keeps chugging along to the end of the season.
Van, what you got, man?
LSU's going to win the game. I think that that the story with Billy Napier, I don't think that very many coaches coming out of the situation that they were in at their prior school that I believed in as much that they would be successful. Process-oriented, detail-oriented guy. Look, I don't know him. I've never been near him. I will say that there's been some really, really bad luck and some really, really interesting situations that have gone on down there in Florida. There's just a lot that didn't work there. I mean, to be honest, like, he hired a guy in Corey Raymond that built, to me, modern college football DB play at LSU the way that you do it. The swagger invented it, and it didn't work. I think Billy Napier is a good guy. I got a lot of respect for him. He won't be coaching then. And when you look at the situation that the last couple of years, they could not get the train on the tracks. And now they're in the middle of their toughest schedule ever. I don't think he'll be there. I think LSU will win the game. I will say this. If they do have a decent season, I'm talking 7 or 8 wins. It'll be one of the most fantastic coaching jobs I've ever seen before in my life. If Billy Napier is able to get this team to 7 wins, forget about 8. 8's not going to happen. But if Billy Napier is able to get this team to 7 wins, not only should he keep his job with the young quarterback that he has there, the kid coming in, but he should get serious consideration for, like, coach of the year type stuff.
No,
like 7
I
wins.
completely agree with that, dude. Like if he gets 7 wins, and obviously with Lagway coming in as well, like, you think he could, like, you think he stays in Gainesville?
I do. I think with
7?
Lagway coming in, if he gets 7 wins, you gotta let him keep his job.
Like
if he gets the 7 wins, you gotta let him keep his job. I'd argue if he got to 6. But and let me tell you why. Because what are the chances that if they fire him that Lagway decommits or he doesn't? Wait a minute, is he on campus this year or next year?
He would transfer out. He's on campus right now.
Okay, so he's going to be behind Graham Mertz. What are the chances that if you fire him, you lose him? If you get to 6 wins, you got to give him a chance to get the ball to the kid, because he's just that special of a player, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think that they will get to 6 wins, but I'm interested to know what would convince Florida to give him another shot, being that they have the roughest schedule that I've seen in a long time. It's brutality.
I think you got to make a bowl game to keep your job.
Really?
I don't think 5 and 7 is something that in any context they're going to tolerate on a swap. Let's talk about what you need to get to a bowl game, though. You've got 3 gimmies, and let's be honest, those Samford, true gimme, right? State and UCF are 2 what I'm calling gimmies. Mississippi State, that is. Okay.
You say UCF?
Yeah, that's what I'm calling a gimme.
Yeah,
right?
They could lose that game.
They could. I know. I'm just going to give them that, though. 3-0 in those games. I'm just going to give it to them. Just hear me out. That means to get bowl eligible, you have to beat 3 of, hear me out, Miami, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
I don't know that I see 3 there. That's absurd. They could be the 20th best team in the country, right? And still go like 3-9. Like, it's really plausible.
And Preston, they could easily lose to UCF. Like, they could lose that game.
So the next question I have is, I think they're going to have a losing season by the time LSU comes around. Who would they even promote to an interim coach? I mean, is Russ Callaway the guy that you think is bright and upcoming? Do you go with the experience of Rob Sale? I mean, maybe Billy Gonzalez or Jabbar Jalouk. Those are both former LSU coaches. I don't see a guy who's like, yeah, we believe in him as our interim. There's no Ed Ogeron on the staff. Let's put it like that. There's no guy where you're like, oh, yeah, this guy could turn the season around and save this season. I don't know if he's fired already by LSU, but I'll tell you this. I do predict that it's going to go so poorly that they're going to bench Graham Mertz, even though Graham Mertz is just going to be a scapegoat for a problem much greater than Graham Mertz. I think Graham Mertz is just he's just Graham Mertz. He's just there. Okay. He's just doing his thing. He's so absurdly adequate. Just so adequate and nothing beyond that. It's not even funny. I do think they're going to pull him at some point and go with DJ Lagway so that they can give, number one, keep DJ Lagway around so he doesn't transfer out with a new coach and frankly, a team that's imploding around him. And number two, to give you some hope to build for the future. So I think DJ Lagway will be the quarterback against LSU. A lot of athletic quarterbacks LSU has to play this year, by the way. I hope they have a really good contain set up. But yeah, anyways, LSU dominates this game. I think that program is going to be more so than the actual how good of a football team they are, is going to be the mental toughness of being on a team going through a stretch like that. And then, by the way, it's not like the road ends at LSU. Then you got Ole Miss. I think they go 0-4 to begin November, and I think the Ole Miss game is where Billy Napier ultimately gets the boot. All righty, let's move on. Vanderbilt, the AJ Swan reunion. Dude, if you pick Vanderbilt to upset LSU, I'm ending the stream right here.
No home. Yeah, this is another one of those. God shined on us with the schedule situation. Wherever we see Vandy, it's always a welcome sight. I love those smart kids. We're gonna win. We're gonna have a big time game going into Oklahoma. This is gonna be a game where we're gonna be able to put up some style points in order to maybe get the playoff committee's attention. So we're going to win this game going away. It'll be 37-17, 37-14, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page. Like, I 41-14, 41-17, something along the lines of that. LSU comes on top, wins this game. I think that there's nothing really for me to even say. Vanderbilt's just not a good football program, and LSU's just superior to them right now, and they will be for the foreseeable future.
All right, here's my twist. I think that they're going to try to force AJ Swan into the game as early as possible, and they're going to let him light it up. I think AJ Swan throws a touchdown pass in this one against his former the Commodores of old. And I think LSU. So worth noting, style points are now a bigger factor than ever. We've seen it in a handful of situations. Notable, the biggest notable example of style points. Do y'all remember when third string Cardale Jones took over for Ohio State in the Big Ten championship against Wisconsin? By the way, Dave Aranda defensed Wisconsin. And they're like, well, if they win and it's impressive, maybe we'll sneak them in as the 4 seed. But Cardale Jones got to look good. And they beat the dog tar out of them 59-0. They're like, yep, that's the I can't think of very many examples of teams looking for style points. I do think it's going to be more prevalent than ever. Okay, I'm going to have LSU at 7-3 at this point. Y'all both have LSU at 8-2. That's right in playoff discussions. And I think especially where I'm at with 7-3, they're going to be looking to run the score up, show off what you can do. And I think LSU hangs 60 on them. They're going to keep Nussmeier in there. They're going to give Ricky Collins a drive or two, and then they're going to put AJ Swan in there, and they're going to want to add some style points without getting guys hurt, but add some style points. I think LSU hangs 60. It's going to be something like 63, and then they're going to give some stupid garbage time. It's going to be like 63-24, something stupid like that. Anyways, a dub for the Tigers, and then the season finale against Oklahoma in Baton Rouge, a game that I think LSU fans are respect. I think LSU fans kind of wish this would be the good season closeout finale, get whatever you want to call it, game, right? Unfortunately, Oklahoma won't be a part of the permanent 3-team rotation, which means this Thanksgiving closer is going to be rotated in the future for LSU. None of the 3 teams on LSU's schedule, I mean, are gonna do that. I mean, you think about it, Ole Miss is going to close with Mississippi State, Bama is going to close with Auburn, and then Texas A&M. I believe they're closing with Texas. Is that right? Anyways, we'll double check that later on. Anyways, my point is that it's not going to be a permanent game here anymore. So Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold. I actually am a believer in Jackson Arnold.
Yeah. Oh, you like Jackson Arnold?
I do like Jackson Arnold. I don't know if I like the whole team for Oklahoma this year and the direction they're going. But I like Jackson Arnold. He definitely brings some talent to the table. Van, what you think the Sooners pull off in Baton Rouge?
So I think that Texas coming into the SEC is going to have a lot of success. Texas has a shot to win the conference. I think that they've lost some stuff on the defensive line. They're not going to be as stout, but I think Quinn Ewers, despite all of the talk about the Louisianian Arch Manning, I think Quinn Ewers is one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I think Texas is going to fare well in the SEC. I don't think Oklahoma is going to have as good of a season in the SEC moving into the conference. And I think they'll be a little beat up and maybe a little mentally down by the time this game happens. And I think LSU will win this game. I think Oklahoma is going to have a rough first season in the league. They won't acclimate to the league as well as Texas will. They're not built for the league right now as well as Texas is. Texas is built from the inside out. Oklahoma is not. By the time we get to this game, they'll be limping a little bit. We'll win this game. It'll be not an easy victory, but it'll be a decisive victory. I'm looking for 13 to 17 point win.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up then. So you've got LSU going 10-2 this year, which you agree with 80% of the LSU fans out there. That means LSU is 100% in the playoffs, by the way.
Do you think that, though? Do you think a 10-2 LSU team gets into the playoff no matter what?
No matter 100%
no matter what.
chance. Not 99, 100. That is the magic number. Abso-freaking-lutely. Here's a question. What does LSU do in the playoffs, man? And SEC championship. Let me ask that too. Does that somehow get you in the SEC championship?
I don't think so. I think that you're going to – I think that I'd have to look at all the schedules and the way they shake out. I don't think that LSU will be in the SEC championship. In the playoff, it all depends on matchup, seeding, and like who we draw, who we're up against. The teams that are weird. Like what happens if LSU faces Penn State in the playoff? What happens if LSU? There's some teams out there that that just with us stylistically, I'd have to see how the season shakes out to really know how deep we'd be able to go. Obviously, if we ended up against one of the group of 5 teams or something like that, that could be a different situation. But I'd really have to see how the season goes to know just how deep we'd be able to go into the playoff. But if 10-2 gets us into the playoff, I'm saying that LSU will make the playoff this year.
By the way, guys, in case you can't tell, we are about to wrap up the show here very soon. Go ahead and put in your predictions for the whole season. Go ahead and drop them on there, and so we have them in the record book. And I might highlight a couple of good ones. All right. So Van has so you think LSU makes playoffs, but you don't feel like there's a true playoff run built in them. They might win a game or two.
I don't.
Roughly,
One might win a game or two. I don't think that there's much of a chance that with the roster
Right.
that we have that we get all the way to the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, 10-2 doesn't guarantee hosting a playoff game at home either. Probably sometimes, yes, but doesn't guarantee that either. Zach, you already said 10-2, so I'm assuming you're going to take LSU to pull a win here, right?
Yeah, I got LSU here, and I really just think it comes down to I think Oklahoma's just going to be fatigued, man. First year in the SEC. Yep. I'm a believer in Jackson Arnold, like you said. He's a great quarterback. Was one of my favorite in that class a season ago. But I think LSU comes out on top here, finishes 10-2. Not quite sure they make the SEC championship game. Obviously, we'll see how things shake out. Punch their ticket to the college football playoff, and then we'll see what type of draw they get from there. It's gonna be interesting. Obviously, we'll see what happens in the college football playoff. But for me, just sitting here doing regular season predictions, man, it's a favorable draw. The schedule favors them in a variety of ways. I think getting those losses in the middle of the season like that to A&M and Alabama puts them in good position to punch their ticket to the college football playoff. So I like where they're going here. Preston, I was kind of like you. I sat back for a while, tossing back and forth, 9-10 wins. What is it going to be? What is it going to be? And I ultimately just went with 10-2 just because I believe in what Brian Kelly's building. And I really like what Blake Baker brings on the defensive side of the ball as well. But 10-2, college football playoff, and we'll see what type of matchup they get come that first round.
Do you think LSU could have a championship run in them?
I don't know if this is the year for LSU right now. I think you continue to take steps in the right direction. I think you get over the hump and you make the college football playoff here and then work from there next year. And the year after, man, you're going to have Bryce Underwood. We'll see what happens in the near future. But for me, I don't know if it's a national championship team just yet. Depends on the draw. We'll see what happens with that bracket.
So we had 10-2 playoff, but no SEC for both of y'all. Obviously, I think that's a year that people would be pretty happy with and feel good about the program. I think so. First off, Oklahoma is going to be recovering from playing Bama. They do have a bye before that, but Missouri. So in 4 weeks, you got Missouri, Bama, LSU. So it is a rough stretch. Jackson Arnold's still a young quarterback. Oklahoma is going to have to adjust to an SEC grind, which is just different than the Big 12. This applies to Texas as well. And I think Oklahoma got a pretty rough draw for their first year schedule, and I think LSU takes a win. I think LSU is going to close out on a good note, winning 3 straight games, bouncing back from 6-3. And the question here is, what does that mean for LSU? And here's where things get really dark and glum. I've been telling people all offseason, the 9-3 that makes the playoffs versus the 9-3 that doesn't is going to be a colossal difference. The bar for this LSU program for the foreseeable future is very simple. Make the playoffs. That's it. That's the bar. Okay. Every time you miss the playoffs, that's going to need to be set off by a good deep playoff run where you either make it to the championship or semifinal or something, right? You're going to have to offset those misses. That's the bar for the program. The fact is, since 2000, LSU's only made the playoffs since 9 out of 23 times is what they would have made it since 2000. Obviously, I don't think that quite would keep fan base happy because they have, pie in their face 14 times throughout the 23 years. But you got 3 championships during that stretch. So feeling pretty good. You also made it to the championship. So that obviously would kind of be that leveling out I'm talking about. At 9-3, LSU's finished 9-3 in the regular season 10 times since 2000. Twice they would have made the playoffs. And what were those teams that would have made it? Well, let's take a look. Like 2018 LSU. But that was a team that beat number 2 Georgia at home and beat the tar out of them. I think to make the playoffs as a 9-3 team, you have to do something truly impressive. And I look at the schedule and I look at what we're talking about here. Okay. Yeah, 2 big impressive wins. Ole Miss, I think, is going to have a pretty good season. I think Alabama's going to be 10-2, 9-3, something like that. So, but I'm predicting losses there. I think Texas A&M is heading for either 8-4 or 9-3. But they're a respectable 8-4 or 9-3, so that's going to be 3 decent losses. What does LSU have? I think USC is about to have a rough season. I really do. I don't think they're going to adjust to the Big Ten very well. And I think that defense, I'm not quite sold on what they've got coming back. South Carolina is rebuilding. I don't think Lenore Sellers is a true complete quarterback. And they're rebuilding a lot of their program left to the NFL last year. So that's going to be rough. I think UCLA is a program that's in complete rebuild. Arkansas is a program that's imploding in front of our eyes. I think Sam Pittman's a coach that's going to get fired. Billy Napier is a coach that's going to get fired. That's a program that's going to look up with 5 or 4 wins. 6, I think 6 is the absolute max, but that's not going to be considered a quality win. Vanderbilt is an absolute joke. And I think Oklahoma is a 7-8 win team. So where's the win of those games where you're like, that's impressive. LSU can play with the big boys. Guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think LSU is going to be one of the first 3 or 4 teams out. I think it's going to be very frustrating. I think 9-3, and I think it's going to be particularly miserable watching a bowl game. I think bowl games are about to be after the playoff came out, it really felt like the bowl games. Like, remember when BCS bowls used to be exciting? Van, do you remember the 06 Sugar Bowl?
I do.
That was exciting, man.
It was great.
Jamarcus Russell lit them up, and that was a lot of fun to beat the dog out of Notre Dame. Now everybody opts out. The coaches bail on their team. Nobody cares, okay? And part of that, I think, is because of the playoffs, right? I think everybody's just like, be the playoffs or don't. There's no, like, real exciting bowl game. And I think that's about to get way worse because we're going to have 3 weeks of playoff games. Are you kidding me? We can watch the Bahamas Bowl, or we can watch what's this? We watch Ohio State at freaking Oregon in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? I think that bowl games are about to become, they're going to have to work a new system out, some sort of NIT or something like that, because these are about to be just miserable to watch. And I also think they're going to work out like a G5, like a group of 5 championship. I really think they need that. I really think they need to put that together. Anyways, so that's that. I think LSU barely misses the playoffs. You guys think LSU makes the playoffs? Nobody thinks a championship run on the team. Anyways, I appreciate y'all for staying for an extended 2-hour edition of your LSU Football Fix. Guys, I want to give a big shout out to Van and Zach. Both are very busy guys, and finding 2 hours to do anything like this is not easy. Y'all make sure to go follow Zach on Twitter at ZNaggy20. He also does great work as the publisher of SI, where he has write-ups. If you want to read more details about his season prediction, you can go read that. He's got the link on his Twitter. You can go check it out. And then, I always give you a plug, but you never take it. You got any plugs?
0. My plug is being here. I love LSU.
There it is, man. Go Tigers. We will see y'all next week. Everybody have a great evening.